Our planet's forests are sending out a smoke signal, and it seems to be getting thicker and darker every single year. And we're not just talking about the usual seasonal wildfires anymore. What we're looking at is a full-blown global crisis that's speeding up so fast it's literally changing the world right before our eyes.
So, take a look at this. 2x. Simple, right? But what does that actually mean? Well, it's a stark, simple way to measure just how fast things are getting worse.
That's what it means. In just 2 decades, a blink of an eye really, the amount of forest we lose to fire every single year has doubled. This isn't some slow, creeping change we can deal with later. It's an explosion. It's a radical shift that we absolutely have to pay attention to.
And this right here is what's so critical to get. For a long time, we kind of saw fires as just one piece of the puzzle. But look at this data from just the last couple of years. Fires now make up nearly half of all the tree cover we lose around the globe. They've gone from being a side problem to the main event, basically on par with everything else, like deforestation for farming and logging, combined.
Okay, so let's put some real numbers on this, because to really wrap your head around this new reality, you have to see the sheer scale of it. And honestly, these numbers are staggering.
13.5 million hectares. That's how much forest burned in 2024 alone. I mean, that number is so huge, it's almost meaningless, right? So let's try to picture it another way. That's like the entire country of Greece, just gone, wiped off the map in a single year.
And this timeline, this is what really drives home that acceleration we're talking about. The period since 2020 has been a completely new era for fires. Get this, 4 of the 5 worst years ever recorded for forest loss from fire have all happened in just the last few years. This isn't a gradual trend anymore. It's like we've gone right off a cliff.
So the big question is why? What's driving this? What's the engine behind this incredible speed up? Well, the answer is a really powerful and frankly dangerous process that scientists call the fire-climate feedback loop. Let's break down exactly what that is.
So here's the core idea. It's actually pretty straightforward. Forests store enormous amounts of carbon in their trees and soil, right? Well, when they burn, all that carbon gets released into the atmosphere. That makes climate change worse, which leads to hotter temperatures and more droughts. And what do hotter, drier conditions create? The perfect tinderbox for even bigger fires, which then release even more carbon. You see where this is going? It just feeds on itself.
And this lays it out perfectly, step by step. You start with climate change bringing more heat and drought. That creates the fuel for more intense fires. Those fires then pump huge amounts of carbon into the air. That carbon makes climate change even worse, and we're right back at the start, only this time the dial is turned way up. It's a dangerous, self-perpetuating engine.
Now, while this is definitely a global problem, it isn't happening everywhere in the same way. There are very specific hotspots on the planet where this crisis is really dangerously concentrated.
And this is just, wow. Take a look at this chart. It's incredibly revealing. Over 60% of all the tree cover lost to fire since 2001 has happened in one specific place, the boreal forests. You know those massive northern forests in places like Canada and Russia? They've become the absolute epicenter of the global fire crisis. But the story is different depending on where you are in the world. Up in the boreal north, the main problem is that these regions are warming way faster than anywhere else on Earth. That means longer, more intense fire seasons. Plus, the amount of carbon stored up there, even in the frozen permafrost, is just immense. But then you look at the tropics, and it's a different story. Fires there are often started by people, usually to clear land for farms. And that problem then gets supercharged by things like El Niño, which causes terrible droughts. So you've got 2 different regions, with 2 very different fire crises.
You know, it's so easy to look at this and think of it as a remote problem, just trees burning somewhere far away. But the truth is, the consequences ripple outwards, and they affect all of us in really direct and dangerous ways. This is about so much more than just losing trees.
This line from an analysis by the World Resources Institute just cuts right to the chase. We're talking about the fundamental things our society is built on being threatened. Fires aren't just an environmental issue anymore. They're a direct threat to our homes, our clean water, and our communities.
And then there's the smoke. We've all seen those hazy orange skies, right? Well, that smoke has become its own global health crisis. It's estimated that more than 1.5 million people die every single year just from health problems caused by breathing in wildfire smoke. Let that sink in.
The really crucial thing to understand is the domino effect. Entire communities are forced to flee their homes. The water supplies for major cities get polluted with ash and debris. Roads, bridges, power lines, all destroyed. People's livelihoods and whole local economies just vanish. And of course, countless plants and animals are pushed that much closer to extinction. The hidden costs are just immense.
Okay, so with a problem this huge, it is really easy to feel, well, overwhelmed, powerless even. But we're not. The key is to figure out how to take this vicious cycle and turn it into a virtuous one through real, decisive action.
And there is a clear path forward. It really comes down to a three-pronged attack. First, and this is the big one, we have to reduce our emissions. We have to tackle the root cause, which is climate change itself. Second, we need much smarter forest management to help make our forests stronger and more resilient to fire. And third, we have to get better at monitoring, using amazing tech like satellites to track fires in real time so we can respond way faster and smarter.
So in the end, it really comes down to this. The smoke that's filling up our skies isn't just a nuisance, it's a message. It's a clear, loud signal from our planet. The data couldn't be clearer, the trends are terrifying, and the consequences are already here. So the question for all of us is, are we finally paying attention?